Choosing a deck for a Pokemon tournament can be tough. I have had times where I've lost sleep over my deck leading up to a major event for sure, but not this time. A couple months ago, I set my sights on Gholdengo EX for the Toronto Regional Championships and decided to dedicate myself to the art of being the best Gholdengo player that I could be. The deck is good. You can play from a single prize board with no liabilities, take turn 1 knockouts, draw tons of cards, and one-hit KO everything. The Toronto Regional Championships are just my third event back after taking a year completely off for the 2024-2025 season, and I'm really excited about this one. My family is traveling with me, and my whole testing group is here. We got myself, 3-time regional champion JW Kriewall, regional champion Riley Hulbert, and 2024 world semifinalist Jesse Parker. Usually, when we're getting ready for a tournament, we try to all come to a consensus on a deck, but it doesn't always work out that way. The decks in this format are pretty established, and at this point, we have strong opinions about them. So for this event, we decided as a group to just put in as much time as possible with our favorite deck to minimize misplays and go with that.
Tell the people at home, what deck did you bring to the Toronto Regional Championships and why?
Ever since NAIC last year, I dedicated myself to only playing the seriously best decks in the format. So really, ever since then, I've only devoted time to Gardevoir and Dragapult, and I've only played Gardevoir since Milwaukee. So I'm rolling up with Gardevoir EX. I think it's the best deck, maybe ever, maybe of all time. And the questions are like, what do you do with the deck? There's so much versatility with Gardevoir, which is one of the sells to me. I ended up going with a kind of Bravery Charms style version of Gardevoir. So, I got the Scream Tail and the Drifloon. I'm playing some interesting cards like the Bravery Charm and the Lux Cape. So the idea is instead of trying to do funny stuff with Frillish and Jellicent, just going really, really aggressive. Instead, very consistent, TM Evo, turn 1, into immediately attacking with Scream Tails and Drifloons. Drifloon's nice because it lets you reach for some really crazy knockouts on things like the Mega Lopunny. If you're playing a Kangaskhan Buffalant, the Drifloon can even reach up to that kind of damage threshold with the Lux Cape. Overall, I'm feeling very confident. I've invested a very, very significant time into preparing with Gardevoir for this tournament. A friend of ours, Lance, had told me about a month ago now that if you're going to play Gardevoir, you have to feel like you're one of the very best Gardevoir players in the room. And I actually do kind of feel like that right now. So, tournaments, there's variance. Things can go different ways, but I feel like I've done everything I can to prepare for this and feel like I'm putting my best foot forward. And Gardevoir is a deck that I think has a lot of skill expression. So feeling pretty good.
JW is rolling up with the same 60 as Riley and is relying pretty heavily on some last-minute pointers since he spent most of his time prepping for the Azuki TCG Invitational last weekend, where he went 2-4. Jesse, on the other hand, has defied all of our advice and is bringing Miraidon, a different iteration of the same deck he used to finish in the top 4 of the World Championships 2 years ago. But this deck has seriously fallen off since then, and nobody is playing it anymore, except Jesse.
But I still think the deck is serviceable. I think it's actually in a pretty decent spot right now. I just think there's one big thing missing in the format right now, and that's a fast-hitting Iron Hands deck, and I think that's what this is. So it's like a turbo Iron Hands deck, even more than it was before. You're just getting Iron Hands powered up as soon as possible, and that's really good against the Stage 2 evolving decks and Gholdengo. So yeah, Zekrom gets in there, can swing for big damage too after using Magneton. So yeah, just really low to the ground, consistent turbo deck, which has worked well for me in the past. So we're going back to my roots.
And for me, Gholdengo testing had gone really well until the week of Toronto.
Just getting absolutely destroyed here. Get the Klefki in the active against I can't even draw, man. Do you see why I don't even want to play Gholdengo anymore? I've been beaten down, man. Nothing good happens. Everybody's teched for you. Turn 1, Klefki going first. Turn 2, Pidgeot. The absolute nuts. Holy crap, man. I don't have any good matchups, actually. I don't think Gholdengo has any good matchups. You don't beat Charizard consistently. You don't beat the Zoroark deck with a double Toad. Even Poltnor, dude, Poltnor testing was horrendous today. Maybe I'm just low rolling into high rollers. That's so facts, honestly. Maybe I'm just low rolling into high rollers. That's so true. Yeah, that's beast.
Despite my crash out, and despite the fact that I knew in my gut that Gholdengo was a tough call for this weekend, I doubled down anyway. This is the list that I ended up submitting for the event. I wanted it to be as consistent as possible, so I opted for Secret Box over Prime Catcher. I think Secret Box really helps you to pull off those combo turns. It can feel like you're playing two supporters in a turn if you get to Secret Box and play Arven in the same turn. I really like the TM Evolution and Mega Lopunny EX from Owen Kammerman's list from the Stuttgart Regional Championships, so I kept with that. And then ended up cutting the Picnic Basket for a second Buddy Buddy Poffin. Again, I just really want to have those consistent starts, and Buddy Buddy Poffin is a card you pretty much always like to see in the opening hand. I really vibe with the Gholdengo deck, and I'd love to day two another regional championship, so that's the goal for today. Before I dive into the tournament, I want to give a quick shout out to my channel sponsor, Full Grip Games. FullGripGames.com is the best place to buy Pokemon trading card game singles and sealed product. And if you've got extra cards, Full Grip Games is always buying bulk and singles on the buy list at FullGripGames.com. I really can't vouch for Full Grip enough. They have an amazing selection, they host incredible tournaments, and have been supporting the content I create here on Tricky Gym since 2018. Shopping at FullGripGames.com directly supports the content that I create here on Tricky Gym. So thank you so much for continuing to support the channel by shopping at Full Grip Games.
Round one, we got the dub versus Charizard. It went super smooth. I opened Soul Rock both games, took turn one knockouts both games. Game one, my opponent had a little bit of a slower time getting set up, so he scooped it up early. Game two, he was able to establish a board after my first knockout or so, but things just weren't super smooth on his end. He didn't open Terapagos and was not able to go turn two Jewel Seeker like he wants to. I just had a tough time getting that going, which, you know, if the opponent's deck stumbles at all and I'm getting early knockouts with Soul Rock, that's exactly the kind of game that Gholdengo wants, and my deck was consistent. I didn't miss a beat. Everything that needed to happen happened, and that's exactly why I'm playing Gholdengo, because it's that low to the ground, consistent deck. So, round one went well.
Here's a little pro tip for all you gamers balling on a budget out there, and you know I am. You can list the promo and playmat that you get at these events on eBay right there in the event hall. I sold my Mega Gengar playmat on eBay for $90 before I even left for the weekend. And a lot of times people are trying to get the newest promos and newest playmats as soon as possible, as soon as they release. Not every playmat is going to go for $90, but if you've got a popular Pokemon like Mega Gengar, absolutely.
Won round two, super close set in the Gholdengo mirror. It was actually crazy. My opponent popped off on the first couple turns of the game, both game one and game two. Game one, they just had the turn one, Precious Trolley, Vitality Band, Premium Power Pro, one-hit KO on my Soul Rock. Turn one, and I was left in a really devastating spot because I needed that Soul Rock to draw cards with Lunar Cycle because I prized my other Soul Rock, didn't have access to Super Rod in hand. So I had this really weird turn two where I just kind of like TM Evo'd into a Gholdengo and said, hope you don't do anything. He proceeded to use Boss's Orders, bring up a Gimme Ghoul, knock it out, and went up 2 prizes. In the Gholdengo mirror, if you're down 2 prizes, you're pretty much cooked. But I was able to claw back into the game because he went on to 4 prizes remaining, which is a Cramorant turn. I used Cramorant to knock out his Soul Rock, and then my opponent also prized his other Soul Rock. So he was unable to draw after I knocked out his Soul Rock. Then he had this weird turn where he had to kind of try and thin his deck with Gimme Ghoul, minor errand running, but he had his Cramorant on the bench. So he was kind of like waiting for me to go to 4 prizes so he could attack with Cramorant. But then I used Boss's Orders to bring up his Cramorant and knock it out. And from there, I was actually able to mount a comeback. It was actually pretty crazy, and just goes to show how much this deck can stall out if you don't have access to Lunatone and Solrock, especially if you're in the mirror not trying to get Gholdengo into play. Game 2 was super sketch. My opponent was able to get an early knockout with Solrock Premium Power Pro again. I ended up having Mega Lopunny in play to try and force a weird game state because my opponent didn't have any Gimme Ghoul down. Now, obviously, having Mega Lopunny in play is kind of troll, but I was like on the ropes just drawing funny, and my opponent didn't have any Gimme Ghoul at the time, and I was like, surely I'll find a Turo and I'll just be able to Turo this sucker up and then like never get punished for this. But I did get punished for it. My opponent was able to use boss's orders to bring up Mega Lopunny and win on the 3-prize turn. I would have won had that not happened. And then going into game 3, I was able to just get a really solid start. My opponent kind of stumbled out the gates a little bit, and I won game 3. So it was a close mirror. It was a sweaty one, some really good games. Apparently my opponent had been to Full Grip before and attended one of our 3K events. So big shout out to my opponent there. That was awesome. Feeling good. 2-0. Let's go.
And we're back with another pro tip for all you gamers out there. Wash your hands with soap.
Just got Alakazam'd in round 3. I lost, unfortunately. Alakazam is a terrible matchup for Gholdengo, but I was still able to take it to a game 3. And honestly, I felt like I could have won the set. Game 1, if I was just able to like string together boss's orders one additional turn. There was a turn where I just missed a crucial boss, and I just win if I hit it because I go down to 2 prizes where my opponent will only be at 3, and I could just go Dengo game. And I had been able to take single prizes every turn up until that crucial turn as the game was winding down, and I missed knockout, and it was just really tough. I prized a boss's orders game 1, so that definitely played into it. And then game 2, I was able to outrace my opponent, get the win. And game 3, my opponent got the turn 2 knockout with Rare Candy Alakazam going second. And that's not a trade that I can win, especially with no hand disruption in my deck to reset Alakazam's hand. My opponent was able to just kind of like string things along in game 3 and keep the pressure on. And game 3, since I wasn't going to get myself into a position where I could actually win the prize trade the whole time, because my opponent can eventually like evolve up a board where there are no targets with 70 hit points or less for Solrock to knock out. I do have Hops Cramorant, that's a big deal obviously, but for the final couple turns of the game, Hops Cramorant is not an option, so I have to be able to go in with Gholdengo, and if my opponent could just knock out Gholdengo and win, they win the game. So game 3, it was coming down to that. I was just trying to chase down the Alakazams and maybe force a bad prizing situation on my opponent. That didn't happen, so just a tough matchup. Alakazam, that's the kind of deck that you expect to see on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, but probably not at the regional, so unlucky to see that at 2-0. Best of luck to my opponent. I mean, sick deck for sure, but not a great matchup for Gholdengo by any means. I think it gets a little bit more favorable if I play Vitality Band, and maybe also if I play Prime Catcher, but I'm playing Secret Box, no Vitality Band, and not being able to knock out those Kadabra on my opponent's bench that have 80 hit points with Solrock, that's tough for sure. 2-1, still feeling solid. I mean, that's a matchup that I'm not supposed to win, so it's okay. We'll just keep our head up, go next. Just lost to Zoroark with Toad Scroll. It was really close. I mean, game 1 was a real grindy game. It's not the kind of game that you could scoop, right? Because he wasn't able to get Toad Scroll out until the very end of the game. And we ended up in this weird 1-to-1 prize stalemate at the end of game 1. It was gonna be a 30-minute game. That's just what it was. I needed a combination of Earthen Vessel and Boss in order to win off like a late Iono to 1. My opponent just needed Boss to be able to win. And he had established Toad Scroll, so I couldn't use Superior, but I had enough energy in deck to win the game. And again, it was just 1-to-1 prizes. He was able to make a clutch Turo scenario in order to pick up a Pokemon that only had 60 hit points, one of the Toad Schools. So it did make my win con a little bit more difficult for sure, and that was a heads-up play. Going into game 2, we had about 20 minutes left, but my opponent just kept looking over at the clock, and I could tell that he didn't want game 2 to conclude. There was a turn in the middle of game 2 where he looked at the clock 3 times in the middle of a single turn, and it's like, I had to tell him straight up, like, you know how much time is left in the round. Don't do this. Don't slow play. I could tell your pace of play has changed. I could tell you're looking at the clock. Let's just finish this game. I didn't end up calling a judge because he cut it out after I addressed it, but the game did come down to time. I had 1 prize left to my opponent's 6, and he did effectively stall me out of the game. So it was a really tough way to end that one. I had 1 prize left to my opponent's 6. I was dominating game 2. Just tough, right? There's just not a lot more I could do about that. I thought about calling a judge multiple times during that round, but it just, my opponent did address the behavior after I addressed it. And I never want to accuse somebody of slow playing, but it was the like constant looking over at the clock that just really cued me into like, you know exactly what you're doing, bro. So that was a tough one. 2-2, not where I want to be at all. And especially feeling like both of my last losses were tough matchups. I mean, Zoroark with Toedscruel is tough. That is a tech directly for Gholdengo. And Alakazam is tough. I mean, that is a horrible matchup for Gholdengo. So I'm not like super upset about them because it's not like I misplayed out of wins or anything like that. But both of those sets were tough situations, and I feel like I could have played out of them. They were so close. So that is tough. I don't feel bad at 2-2, honestly. Things are going well. Like, the deck is working, and I feel like I'm playing tight. So I wouldn't be surprised if I just like am able to go on a heater and win a handful straight. We'll see if that comes to fruition, that or I get Alakazam'd again. We'll see, but yeah, it is what it is.
Pro gamer tip number 3. Stay hydrated out there.
Well, we got there. 3rd win, 3-2. Played against a super nice gentleman who was playing Mega Kangaskhan with Cornerstone Ogerpon. That's a really good matchup for me. I've got the Mega Lopunny and the Hops Cramorant to help deal with the Cornerstone, but game 1, not only did I prize a Baniri, I also prized both of my Solrock, and I was pretty close to scooping, but my opponent benched a Mega Kangaskhan, and I was like, well, we'll take 3 and see what we can do. And I found my Baniri there, and then after that, I was able to mount a comeback. Eventually knocked out the Cornerstone Ogerpon by reusing Hops Cramorant, Super Rod, Hops Cramorant again, and my opponent wasn't able to find any of his ice cream cones to keep it alive. So that was clutch. Game 2 just got away from me. I got my Mega Lopunny chased down. I used TM Evo to evolve up into it, but then he had boss's orders to swing into it with Kangaskhan. I tried moving it to the bench to knock out the Kangaskhan, and then my opponent was able to boss up the Mega Lopunny again and knock it out. I missed KO on the Kangaskhan that turn as well because I just was kind of having a slower start. And then we went to game 3. And my opponent said that we could decide game 3 based on prizes because neither of us really want to tie at this point. Having 2 losses already, like I'm not trying to go 6-2-1 to be honest. Game 3, I was able to evolution into the Mega Lopunny. Again, he used boss's orders to chase it down and swing into it, but I had Turo to reset it, and then he didn't have Iono to disrupt my hand or boss's orders to knock out the Baniri. That was super clutch. That was kind of like the crux of game 3 there, was that he was not able to chase it down after I Turo'd it, and then Mega Lopunny was able to deal with the Cornerstone from there. I had a clutch turn where I was able to boss, 1-hit KO, Mega Kangaskhan with a Charm on the bench. So, I mean, that's a good matchup. That's the reason we play the Mega Lopunny right there. And, you know, we got 3, so. Here's Brian Hunter.
Oh, hi. I don't play anymore.
Me neither.
Feeling really blessed to be doling out the pro tips today, so I've got you with another one. A cool hat does wonders for your aura at a Pokemon tournament.
What up?
How's it going so far?
It's going okay. Had a really hot start, 3-0, but these days are long, can't get too excited. And then I played against 3-0. I played against a couple Dawn Charizards and a Gardevoir, so I was able to beat both Dawn Charizards, which is a tough matchup for my deck. And then I tied against a Joltik Gholdengo deck, Joltik Dengo, and it was his game to win in game 3. He made some mistakes, and I was able to draw it out to a tie somehow, playing Miraidon. It just happened that way. He was kind of playing slow. And then I tied, and then my last round, round 5, I lost to a third Dawn Charizard. And yeah, I kind of made a misplay in game 1. I made like a small blunder. It was one of those misplays that you're like, oh, that shouldn't matter, but then it ended up mattering. So it made me 1 energy short of being able to win. So I had the boss to win, but I didn't have the energy to attack with my Miraidon with 2 energy. So, and that one missing an attachment cost me. So yeah, but we're 3-1-1, so doing okay. Just need to win like maybe 3 more games. So yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm 3-1-1 right now. I played a lot of dark decks, and I beat 2 of them and tied the other, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. I took a tough loss to a Dragapult where it's just like, you know the games, where it's just like you don't really draw anything and you put dude out of it. It was like a 5-minute series. But yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling confident, and like starting the day by beating 2 counter decks in a row, like kind of set me off. So all I'm really trying to do is just minimize my misplays. And
There we go.
I feel really confident in my play so far.
Exactly. I'm feeling good too. At 3-2, it's like my losses. Those guys were out to get Gholdengo, so it's all good. All right, head up. Good luck, dude.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yep. Got the dub versus Charizard. We're back 4-2. It got a little dicey. I won game 1, but game 2, I started Genesect Pass and then just lost very quickly because I had nothing else. So game 3, I had an interesting decision. Do I actually choose to go first or second versus Charizard? And I chose first because my opponent wants to go first. So I figured I could deny them going first. Also, if my opponent does something like open Terapagos, it gives me an opportunity to knock out the Terapagos on the first attacking turn of the game and initiate that prize trade, which is something that I need to do in this matchup in order to win. And fortunately, my hand buffed out. I had a good looking opening hand going first, had a Buddy Poffin in it, Artisan. I didn't love giving my opponent the Artisan, but I decided it was worth it so that I could actually use Lunar Cycle and draw some cards so that I could get deeper into my deck because my opponent did open Terapagos. So I knew that I wanted to try and go for the turn 2, make it rain for 250 to knock out that Terapagos. And opening Buddy was super clutch. I was able to actually get there for the turn 2, 250, and from there just traded perfectly. Went turn 2, knockout Terapagos, turn 3, boss knockout Charizard, turn 4, knockout Pidgeot EX, 4-turn game, going first, absolute perfection. That's what you want out of your Gholdengo deck, and we got there. So that felt good. I felt like I was playing tight, like I knew exactly what I needed to do, and we did it. So let's hope no more Alakazams out here. That'd be fantastic. I'm feeling pretty good after that win, but it is a tight rope that I'm walking because if I lose one more, I'm out of contention for day 2, and I'm gonna drop from the event and go hang out with Natalie and my son. So we're right there on the edge. Like, if I keep winning, fantastic. Would love to get 2 to 3 more wins today, make it into day 2. That would feel awesome. But if we lose, we're out. So I have no intention on continuing to play after I'm out of day 2 contention. That's just how we roll.
How you doing so far?
5-1 today. So feeling really good about my choices in the games. I'm playing Gardevoir today, and I've only played like Charizard, Mirror, Dragapult, and Gholdengo. So I played the gamut, really, and an Alakazam. So like, I played the top 5, top 5 decks, many would say.
I've only played names 5 different decks.
So it's been a good event. I feel like it's been flowing really smooth, which has really helped me because I think if this were like 6 o'clock and we still had 2 more rounds, like my brain would be somewhere else. So I'm happy that we're keeping pace of play going. And I've actually finished all my rounds in like 35 minutes or so. I am like not going to time. I've been finishing before me. I've been finishing before Jesse on his Miraidon deck, which is incredible.
All right, Jesse, give us an update. What's going on?
I'm 3-2-1. I'm on my last life. I was 3-0, and then things fell off the rails really quick. As I said, 3-0 doesn't really mean anything.
No.
Because then you start playing against better players.
That's facts.
And your deck starts to maybe show its flaws.
All right, win out.
It's not over yet. It's not over.
Win out. That's it. I'm out. 4-3. But against Charizard, my luck against Charizard had been pretty good up until this point, as I had not lost to any yet. But finally, played against Donzard, and my opponent went first in the series, was able to get a really strong start, turn one going first. In game one, they were able to retreat into Terapagos, and that is like the play that you have to make, because I open Gimme Ghoul, and that makes it really hard for me to have turn one boss knockout, because in order to win that matchup, I have to initiate the prize trade. So heads up play there by my opponent, but you know, I wasn't able to outrace my opponent there game one. And then game two, it was very close. I had this very awkward start since my opponent opened Klefki. I chose to go first, but they opened the Klefki, so I couldn't do anything on my first turn going first, which was like horrendous. But I was able to nest ball for a gimme goal, and then turn two, ended up finding Secret Box and was able to gust down their only Charmander with a Soul Rock. So I started the prize trade. I was kind of spawn camping the Charmanders and took another knockout on a Charmander the following turn. And things were going really smooth. I was up 2 prizes before my opponent took a knockout. They took 2 prizes, so it was 4 prizes to 4. And then I was able to take a 2-prize KO on Terapagos, bring it down to 2 prizes. All I needed was to draw into enough energy to knock out a Charizard after on Iono. At the end of the game, I had 3 Superiors in deck. All I had to do was draw into 1 with an Arven, double Superior, and I win, and I just whiffed. It was very close. Just sometimes you don't draw it with Gholdengo. Sometimes you get a little unlucky. So that was the tournament run. My losses were Donzard, a Zoroark with the Toadscruel in it, and an Alakazam deck, which ultimately is like not bad. I think that there were certainly some things, modifications that I could have made to my deck to have a better time against stuff like Toadscruel and Alakazam, but if you would have asked me 10 more times if I would accommodate my deck for Alakazam at this tournament, I wouldn't do that. So I'm not gonna make a change to my deck list just on the off chance that I play against an Alakazam deck at 2-0. So that's just bad beats. But then the Toadscruel, that was a known quantity. I knew that the Zoroark decks were gonna be playing the Toadscruel, and honestly, that was a really close set. It was disappointing, but it was close. That could have gone to a tie. And then eventually I was gonna end up losing to a Donzard. I mean, that's just what it is, right? Like, I had honestly been doing pretty good against the Charizard decks up until this point. I beat a bunch of them, but inevitably I was gonna end up losing. There's a lot of Charizard in the field, so tough go. I felt good about the deck and how I played it, but unfortunately was not able to run the gauntlet. But now I'm very excited because I get to go join Natalie and my son and have some fun tonight. So I'm gonna be cheering on my friends, and hopefully they do well. Hopefully JW can take home his 4th regional championship. I'm gonna be cheering the boys on and wishing them the best of luck.
My day did not go great, but JW, Riley, and Jesse all ended up making phase 2. And while the family and I were hate watching the bills at a Japanese restaurant, JW got to play on stream. He lost to Gholdengo, but it's always cool to be featured on the official cast with how big these tournaments are these days. There's over 2,200 Masters TCG competitors at the Toronto Regional Championships. Unfortunately for JW, his hot streak went cold after about round 7 and ended up finishing with a record of 9-5. Good enough for top 256 and some loose booster packs. Riley and JW actually ended up being paired in day 2. Riley won the friend mirror, which helped propel him to a record of 8-2-4, 1 match point higher than JW, which landed him in top 128, netting him a booster box. And Jesse? Well, Jesse proved all of us wrong.
Boy howdy, Jesse Parker is back at it again with the yellow guys.
Yes, very excited to see this one shape up. I mean, 2 really cool stories for each of these players. You mentioned it, Justin Templer, a first-year Masters Division player. He's a player the last 3 or 4 seasons that has had so much success. But then, yeah, Jesse Parker, I mean, obviously he had the incredible run at the World Championships in 2024. That was such a fun story to follow. His Miraidon deck, an archetype that most people had written off, but that he had stuck with through and through, and he had a great run at that event, unfortunately for him, ending in top 4, but he did get himself submitted in Pokemon history, got that Worlds deck printed, which I know is something he holds dear.
Yeah, that's so great for him. Yeah,
Round 14, Jesse was playing a win and in to top cut on stream. I can't reiterate how crazy it is that Jesse has a record of 10-2-1 after being, as he said, on his last life with a record of 3-2-1. 7 straight wins. And now all he needs is 1 more, and he will finish with at least $2,000 cash and a chance to play for a top 8 finish. His set against Gholdengo was a really close one that came down to game 3. But unfortunately, in the end, he whiffed the super rod he needed to recover his Zekrom EX to put himself in a winning position. Despite the loss, Jesse still finished with a record of 10-3-1, earned himself a booster box, and finished in the top 64 out of over 2,000 players. It was super inspiring to watch Jesse stick to his guns and double down with the Miraidon deck that he had been testing for the last few months. He won the Full Grip Games League Cup with it in December and really put in the work to know all of his routes in each matchup. Though he's not going to look back at this finish as one of his best, I hope he realizes how cool it was to see a deck that no one else believed in make such a deep run at a large event. As for my family and I, we headed home Sunday and stopped by Niagara Falls before we crossed the border. We got to take our son to the Rainforest Cafe there too, and he absolutely loved it. It feels good to be energized about standard format again, and I'm really proud of how the team finished this weekend. I'm already looking forward to my next event, which will probably be the Indianapolis Regional Championships, though I'd like to get out to some more locals between now and then too to help get this rust off. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow along for more of my Pokemon adventures, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching.